Ever wonder where you learned your first song? Probably you heard one of your parents, your mother or your father, singing a song. You heard them sing, you repeated it. You heard them sing it again, you repeated it again. And finally, you were able to sing it on your own. And that moment was the first time your parent experienced nachas. That you, their child, would sing their song on your own. It's that sort of nachas that Moshe Rabbeinu experienced in this week's parsha. Way back, the first time we encounter the Shiras Hayam Kriyas Yamsuf, it was Az Yashir Moshe Uvnei Yisrael. Moshe sang, and the people repeated. He had to teach us how to bring the song of godliness into our lives. 40 years later, on the brink of the Jewish people entering into Eretz Yisrael, Moshe departing, leaving them on their own. They have a song again about the Be'er, the well of Miriam that provided for them for 40 years. But this time, it is Az Yashir Yisrael. The people sing. Moshe is not mentioned. He has fulfilled his mission. In 1890, the great steel magnate Andrew Carnegie was holding court in a Pittsburgh club, smoking a cigar with people around him. And there was an up-and-coming scholar of management named Frederick Taylor there. And Carnegie said to Taylor, "Hey Taylor, if you have something worth hearing, I'll send you a check for $10,000, which back then was quite a sum, even today." And Taylor said, "Carnegie, you should make a list of the 10 most important things you need to accomplish, and then do the first one." And the story goes, a few months later, Taylor received a check. Now, it's hard to understand. Was prioritization such a novel, profound concept that Carnegie couldn't have thought of? But he realized, over time, that people can get pulled in so many different directions. And we can spend a half hour scrolling, can become an hour. We can get distracted with a side project that takes a week or a month, and sometimes we can be distracted and it takes a year, decades. And all of a sudden someone turns around and says, "What happened to my years? What happened to my life? I was misguided and I was focused on being a CEO, and what happened to my family?" And the act of making a list and putting on paper, "Here's my top goal," that's worth a lot. For each of us, we have one singular goal, and the goal is to experience what the nachas Moshe Rabbeinu experienced, that our children sing our song. That we teach them how to sing the song of Torah, of Hashem, of our emunah in their lives, and that they can sing it without our help, and sing it to their children. That's our mission. And like a thesis in a paragraph, if there is anything in that paragraph that does not support the thesis, it doesn't belong. And that's how we should be organizing our lives. And we see this nachas, this transition from one generation to the next at the end of the parsha. Aaron and his son Elazar go up to Hor HaHar, to the mountain, as Aaron prepares to leave this world. And there's the ceremony with Aaron taking off his clothing, his big dekun, his priestly vestments, and Moshe helping put them on his son Elazar. Aaron sees the passing of the torch. Elazar is singing the song that he taught. But there's something deeper here. Ever wonder why is it that only Kohanim wear clothing and not the Leviim? Shouldn't the Leviim wear clothing too? If you ever went to Buckingham Palace, I was once over there, the beef eaters, the people guarding the gates, they wear uniforms. The Leviim guarded the gates. If they're serving in the king's palace, shouldn't they wear uniforms? Why only the Kohanim? Says the Avnei Nezer, begadim, clothing, are about a shmira on the pnimius, about protecting, guarding something internal, something interior, something private. The Leviim's service, what the Levites did, was public. It was in public places. It was out in the open. It was opening the gates, closing the gates, singing, instruments. The Kohanim, in contrast, was very different. The Kohanim, in contrast, was all about a pneumistica avoda. They were serving in the Kodesh, in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the inner sanctum, and their service required their intentions, their hearts. A kohen who sprinkled the blood and he had the wrong thought, the wrong machshava, it wasn't lishma, it's pasul. On Yom Kippur, if he had the wrong thought, he didn't make it out alive. So a kohen need begadim to protect that pneumius. And the Gerer Hasidim, the Gerer Rabbeim, Rosh Yeshivas suggest that perhaps this is what's happening, the insight to what's happening when Aaron is taking the clothing off, that on the day a person dies and their physical barrier leaves, the neshama is miskal, the neshama is revealed, their panim becomes exposed, and that cements the transition from father to son. The son wasn't able to access everything from the father. The panemius was locked behind the begadim, behind the physical layers, and when they are shed and the neshama leaves, that panemius, that internal essence, is miskal, is revealed and can be accessed by the child. And so, it's so important for a parent to really be honest and really develop that sense. Who am I really? Who is my internal, my panemius? I know what I show to my children, but who am I for real? Because that is miskala, and kids get that all the time. But ultimately, a person, even if they feel they didn't succeed with their children as they wanted, there's still always that final opportunity. The parent passes. The neshama is revealed, and the child can tap into who they really are. So let's make sure who we really are is who we want our children to be. And with that, we will all be zoche to see our songs in the mouths of our children. V'heshiv lev avos al banim uvnei banim al avosim, and Hashem, we will see the coming of Mashiach with the reuniting of all the fathers and all the sons. Here, amen.